listening to the DCAU Review, hosted by Cal and Liam. Streaming on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and at DCAUreview.com. Now, here's today's episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to the DCAU Review's bonus episode number 15. I am Liam, and with me, as he always is Cal. And Cal, we got a kind of a first-time experience for our listeners here today, although it's not that really unique if you've listened to like any other Watchalong podcast before. But instead of doing a comic book or a top 10 list or a retrospective, anything that we've done before, we're doing a little watch-along for a classic DCAU episode just in time for the holidays.
Absolutely. This is one we've actually covered before on the podcast. You can hear it all the way back in the archives at DCAUreview.com. Episode 2, way back there. So that was quite a while ago, nearly 3 years ago at this point that we covered that. So obviously, though, this is a holiday classic, a tradition that we mentioned on that episode way back then that is something that we like to go back and watch again and again. It's just a tradition, and that, of course, we will be doing our watch along today with the Batman the Animated Series classic Christmas with the Joker, which we didn't. I don't know. Looking back at it, I don't think we understood or knew the weight and some of the lore that the animation studio that this episode used would come to be known as, and certainly legendary on our podcast, at least, or infamous, I guess.
For sure. We got quite a bit to talk about. It is a Acom Studios production animation, unfortunately, and yes, this is for Christmas with the Joker. Acom Studios, back then we didn't really get into that much detail. We were still kind of finding our feet on the podcast, but looking back on it now, yes, once we get into the episode, as you will see as you watch along with us, this is that is not this episode's strong suit. Visuals and animation are not this episode's strong suit, to say the least.
But there is something to be said about the nostalgia of it all, Liam. I think that we maybe even brushed on it back on that episode, that there's a reason why people watch Charlie Brown Christmas every year, or, Year Without Santa Claus, or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Typically, it's not because of the great voice acting that was done at the time, or the animation that's going to blow you away. There's the nostalgia factor, and there's just something about that growing up watching it, and it means something to you. So this episode of Batman the Animated Series is certainly no different. Before, though, we tackle today's episode, we won't be giving a standard scorecard. We won't be necessarily breaking down the plot and the animation and all of that like we typically do, since we're doing a running commentary. But what's an episode review of the DCAU Review without the official IMDb synopsis for this week's episode? Liam, we can't go forward without you giving us that synopsis in your best announcer voice.
Of course. And this is for the episode Christmas with the Joker, which was written by Eddie Gorodetsky, directed by Kent Butterworth, and that synopsis reads as such. On Christmas Eve, the Joker broadcasts a pirate Christmas special on television. Batman and Robin have until midnight to fight their way past Joker's traps hidden all over town and rescue Commissioner Gordon, Harvey Bullock, and Summer Gleason.
So when we did do this original review, we weren't doing the IMDb synopses yet. So
yes,
I will say that is one of the longest ones that we've probably had in the history of the podcast. Lots of words going on here. But Liam, what do you say we jump right into it? We're going to give our listeners a countdown. You can pull this up whether you're watching. Full disclosure, we're going to be watching this while we still can on the DC Universe app. Still not clear whether or not you'll be able to watch this in the upcoming months on the DC Universe app or not. But we're going to be watching this on the DC Universe app. So this is the updated brand HD spanking new looking revision of it. But I'm sure you can do the same thing by watching it on your DVDs or the Blu-rays or whatever copy you have. But what do you say we pull this bad baby up and get to watching?
That's right, Cal. So we are going to give you a countdown. We'll start from 5, and when we get to 0, you will press play. So, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right.
Here we go.
There's something familiar and just calming about the Batman the Animated Series intro. It is, like, with this HD redux that they did with these episodes, it is brighter, bolder, crisper, I would say.
Yeah, the sky kind of bothers me. Like, it's too, like, flat, bright red in a couple of the shots. Not again, it doesn't look bad. They did a great job with the HD, but it is almost like we talk about, especially these early episodes being drawn on black paper, and you know how dark some of these early episodes are, and then you have this stark, really bright reds, and that shot of Batman against the moon there is really it's just very striking. It's just a totally different atmosphere. I feel
you're
like.
used to. I mean, they clean it up a lot, but it cleans it up to the point, like you said, where it probably removes a lot of the dirt and stuff that was on there. So it does make it brighter and bolder. Here we go with classic Batman the Animated Series title card. Here we have the Joker's face on Santa in a Santa suit. There, the yellow eyes popping through there.
He's got like a little he's like Santa Gollum.
Yeah, that's good. Anyway. Here we go, our first scene here in Arkham Asylum. Some nameless guys singing Jingle Bells.
Yeah, you wonder if these are like people that worked on the show.
That kind of looks like Kevin Altieri there, the bald guy.
That might have been Charles Manson that just handed. I think we may have mentioned that in our original review, but it appears Charles Manson hands Joker the... it's not a star, it's like a gold point.
Yeah, they could. I think they probably, standards and practices, didn't want them using
specific religious symbolism.
Sure. Now, we never learn how the Joker got a rocket-powered Christmas tree inside of Arkham, but he sure did.
Well, we've established this in more recent episodes we read. The Joker might be like the third smartest man in the entire DCAU with all of the stuff he manages to do. Rewriting Tim Drake's DNA, the Royal Flush Gang, all of that. Like, he's a real smart guy.
Now we're back at snowy Wayne Manor here. There's a lot of quips here in this episode from Robin.
In production order, this is our first Robin appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense because we established he's in college, so it's Christmas break, so he's back here to quip it up with Bruce over the holidays.
There you go. And of course, Robin alludes to, as long as they can go out and come back without any crime, they're going to settle in and watch It's a Wonderful Life, which is some foreshadowing, as we say. Mm-hmm. Christmas or a snowy Christmas is just absolutely poetic for Gotham City.
I will say, knock on wood, this doesn't look, for Acom Production Studios standards, this looks pretty good so far.
There's some it's definitely some warbly action here.
Yes.
I think we get that Christmas tree, the perspective as it was flying away wasn't great.
I was mostly impressed by the Batmobile driving away there. I thought that was...
Batman not using a grappling gun, throwing a batarang on a rope. Oh, Robin's first quip of the episode.
If you take a shot every time Robin makes a joke, you'll be dead by the time this 22 minutes is up.
Yeah, I will say, as much crap as we give Acom, so far this hasn't been awful. This guy suddenly grew like 12 inches.
Yeah, there's definitely some sizing problems or some scaling problems.
Oh, Batman's still throwing. He's got like a little like kite controller on there. Another quip from Robin.
See, this I forgot. They actually do go home and change out of the suits.
It's true. Bruce is just determined to find trouble. Shall we mention #NotMyAlfred is the voice
Clive
here?
Rebel here as Alfred for the first couple episodes, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when the Joker shows up. But yeah, we didn't have our... Again, this is very early in the production of the show still, so we're not really firing on all cylinders just yet.
So as many times as I watch this, typically every year, it's always so jarring to hear #NotMyAlfred.
Well, to your point, because it's such a classic, and so it's one of the ones you go back to. Even us who watch these cartoons every week, we go back to these for comfort every year. And
is that something that obviously we don't have the option now because, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. unfortunately has passed away.
Yes.
But if you had the option to go back and maybe re-record some of these, not taking away from that original performance, but I feel like that's something nowadays that they would have gone back and sort of retconned.
Another wild Joker vehicle here. The Santa tank.
The Santa tank.
The old standby.
There were some perspective and sizing issues there.
Yeah, is it the size of a car? Is it, like, running over cars? Like,
yeah. This intro here is just absolutely classic. It makes no sense
no,
how he was able to put all this stuff together. The graphics team was working up late at
night. I love
night.
that he's his own announcer, by the way. He doesn't have an Andy Richter to do his introduction. So
he's looking a little frumpy.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that, but they were trying to make them look the clothes look baggy. Oh, with our lovely cardboard cutouts of our, and everybody just kind of looks a little overweight.
Yeah,
or like their clothes don't fit. So speaking of the Joker and alternate voices, originally, Rocky Horror Picture Show's own Tim Curry was going to be the voice of the Joker.
That's right.
And Gene McCurdy tells the story that like a certain producer at Warner Brothers was not a fan of Mr. Curry, and I guess made the decision for Andrea Romano, the legendary casting and voice director. And what you do wonder if in some other alternate universe, if what the show would have been if you didn't have, inarguably, I think, at this point, the most iconic voice actor that's ever played the Joker in Mark Hamill.
It would have been, forever would have changed a lot of things. Would Batman, the animated series, have been as legendary if those kids that had grown up loving Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, realizing that, holy cow, the guy that played Luke Skywalker is the guy that's doing this voice. Yeah. And just the impressive nature in which he's able to give that performance. We get some Bob Hastings yelling there. It's pretty good.
You diseased maniac. I think Superman says that to Lex Luthor in one of the Christopher Reeve movies.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know if that's a direct reference or just coincidence, but
you can tell the voice, as you mentioned, that Mark Hamill had to go in and redub over this, and you can tell the voice doesn't quite match up with the lips like it would later on.
Yes, and
I imagine going back and doing that would have been a Herculean task.
For sure, because ideally the animation is done to the voice actor's performance, but here it was done in reverse, so he had to sort of match the animation and at least sort of match Tim Curry's original vocal tracks. So
right.
A tall task, to be sure.
I love this. So the DC Collectibles at the time did release a Christmas with the Joker variant figure a couple of years ago, and part of their Batman the Animated Series line, and he comes with his Santa's little helper elf here hand puppet as an interchangeable hand. One of the great things about those
Incredible.
lines.
I do love that he's just a total one-man show here. Like, this is obviously pre-Harley being introduced. He has some kind of nameless thugs here that are gonna...
Donner and Blitzen.
Donner and Blitzen. But he doesn't have, any clown-themed thugs yet. So It's just... all the ha-ha has to be done by him alone.
We get our second appearance of the classic Jingle Bells Batman Smells song.
That's right.
There. And then this is probably coming up here is probably the best sequence of the entire episode. I think. We do have the upcoming sequence that also takes place at the observatory, I think, or whatever it is. But this here, your classic superhero trope of a bridge being out, having to rescue a train from crashing.
This might be my favorite bit of the episode. Joker not just taunting Summer Gleason over her mother being on this train that's about to drive over a bridge with no bridge, but doing it with the hand puppet. It's such a Joker thing.
Love it.
And I know Paul Dini always talked about the dichotomy of the clown and the killer, where, yes, he's this psychopathic monster. Great music here, by the way.
I was going to say, let's talk... Yeah,
Michael McQuiston and Lolita Romanis did the music for this episode.
One of the hallmarks and staples, I think, of Batman the Animated Series was being able to bring up that tension. And we talk about it a lot on the podcast about how music is its own character a lot of times. And certainly in this scene and a lot of chase scenes or scenes involving
the strings
vehicles.
Going as Robin's turning the wheel. There's just really a lot of really subtle things here.
And you're keeping with a holiday theme. You got the xylophone or whatever that is coming in there, and then the horns also. So it seems appropriate for this. And then
and mixing that in with the Batman theme and
for sure
that the classic BTAS music that we're used to.
Batman rescuing our nameless train conductor here.
Yeah, this looks... Again, I think we're thinking of Moon of the Wolf and some of these other bad Acom production episodes, but this, per Acom standards, is probably so far really, really solid.
I will say that train bounced pretty high when it hit the ground.
Sure did. Blowing up the cardboard cutouts. Again, did Joker make those cardboard cutouts?
He must have. He sat up late the night before, cutting them out by hand, drawing the faces. So, back to the animation here. There's a lot of this episode that has been just sort of neck up shots of them driving in the car. So, I know that there's some stuff later on that doesn't look too great either. But yeah, as far as the ones that we've seen that Acom did, I could see why they didn't just pull the plug on this after seeing this episode, maybe trying to give them another chance.
Yeah, and it's definitely something you can nitpick. Like, Robin's head is a little, I feel like a little too big, and Batman doesn't always look 100% on model, but this is not the worst that this studio would produce.
Now, Joker here, his face is super elongated, stretched out. His eyes are all bug-eyed, and we talk about that a lot. Though that one of the things that it seems to be so inconsistent throughout the entire series is just the general look of the Joker. No matter what animation company is doing it. Yeah,
it's even from shot to shot, sometimes he has the really strict diamond shaped eyes.
This one, he's got a lot of these big black circles around it.
Right.
It's interesting that we're not the only ones to see that or notice that. Also, I heard an interview this year with some designers from Mondo Tees that are doing those beautiful 1/6 size vinyl Batman the Animated Series figures. They're working on a Joker figure, and one of the things that they said was just trying to find a consistent look for the Joker is very hard.
Yeah, especially in this original BTAS run, it's this is part of, I feel like, where the voice and the animation didn't quite match up in that scene, especially. Yeah, again, Joker just has a giant laser cannon.
How did he manage to set all this stuff up? When he broke out of jail to the point now, it's clearly, even if he broke out at the early part of December. It's only been a couple of weeks, maybe.
It's later on in the series.
There's a classic shot that was used a lot on Fox Kids promos. Yeah.
Robin running into the room there, and
we have the Joker robots that were, of course, used in our favorite Batman, or my favorite Batman video game of all time, The Adventures of Batman and Robin for Super Nintendo.
Oh yeah. I think they were also a little thing you could use in the Batman Cartoon Maker, which was
there you go,
another great little product that
Absolutely.
Came out of this series. But
we spent hours just making terrible Operation Cause and Effect. So this is something that they've practiced at some point, you think?
Yeah, I don't ever remember Batman calling out specific instructions like that to Robin on any. Also, Operation Cause and Effect appears to be slingshot a bomb. So
he couldn't have just said hurl a bomb at
it.
There's a code name for it.
Robin wouldn't have thought to do that himself.
Batman's got a little bit of a tiny head issue here.
Yeah.
Big barrel chest, very tiny head, giant hands.
That whole observatory screams Fleischer Superman to me, by the way. Like I think even that first episode of the first Fleischer short is him fighting a guy with a giant space laser.
Yeah, good point. I love this part here. It's a perspective you don't recognize, then all of a sudden the camera flips around and Joker has drawn a little face on his chin. Turning his frown upside down, literally. We got Summer Gleason, who became a series regular.
Yeah, I think it's funny how a lot of these shows, whether it's Angela Chen or Snapper Carr later, like they all have, every show had like its own news reporter who was apparently the only news reporter in the city because they were both doing field reporting and they were the anchors of
small budgets.
Show. Yes. So this is the Betty Blooper. I'm guessing this is Betty Boop, I guess, pretty...
Yeah, but I'm interested because I feel like WB owns the rights to that character.
I thought so, or I thought that it was like public domain, because you see a lot of those old cartoons will be on like the Walmart dollar DVD bin with like a lot of those other like the Fleischer Superman cartoons, like a lot of those. Maybe
they just were more comfortable doing a parody of it. Here we go, LAFCO Toy Factory.
Batman must be a collector of some kind, because he immediately knew who made the Betty Blooper doll and when their factory went out of business.
Oh, I love that image. What beautiful drawing there. Yes. Giant clown on the outside.
Maybe just generally, if the Joker breaks out of prison, look for any buildings with giant clown heads on them. Just check them out. Send a cop there, maybe. Oh, maybe that's how Gordon and Bullock got grabbed. They went to investigate every building with a clown on it in Gotham.
I like the shadow work there.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Now, I can tell you here, this is one scene that I recognize some perspective and sizing issues very early on at a young age here. Yes. We get the Joker playing the classic Nutcracker theme here, which I guess is probably public domain, too.
I guess so.
I think they had to pay the rights for this music. Oh, but before we get to that, we have some giant soldiers here.
Speaking of the Super Nintendo Batman the Animated Series game, or Adventures Batman and Robin game. Yeah, another one of the Joker villains.
Yeah, this was lifted directly from this episode. And you basically beat it the same way. You didn't. Mm-hmm. You had to jump up and kick the head, and a couple dozen times avoid the gun.
Apparently, Robin only had the one grenade, so he has to kick these guys.
How did Robin get so high so quickly? He was on the ground.
It's not a grappling hook.
Yeah,
that's a batarang, so...
All right, so here's the perspective issues. We have these airplanes with the Joker heads. By the way, where does he get the money for all these wonderful toys?
Well, that's probably why in Joker's Millions he's so broke, because he spends so much money on giant space lasers that he uses once and then get blown up by Robin.
So Batman clearly smashed that and Robin fits these in a garbage can. And look at the size of this head that pops out.
Yeah, that's really compressed in there. If that's
that bat also must have been made of rubber because it was bending.
We can't not mention They Don't Call You Batman for Nothing. Maybe the worst joke in the history of the show, but also one of the more iconic ones.
So
it walks that line.
More faceless. Are these the same guys, Donner and Blitzen, you think? I guess they're kind of shaped the same way.
Yeah, maybe. I guess if Batman and Robin had time to go to the observatory and get here, they had time to get back from the train accident.
Love this trick. Batman throws his cape over one of these bears so they think that they've bested him.
Well, speaking of, sizing issues...
Yeah, this bear looks real small, and now all of a sudden it's large enough to crush these guys. And they thought that was Batman. Yes. And now Batman has a cape back on that doesn't have...
No bullets in that. Did he have an extra cape?
That's a good question. Here we go. This is all the culmination to everything here. The Joker just...
It's all been leading to a vat of acid, a news reporter, and two cops hanging over it.
Some strong rope. I do love that this is the punchline for the Joker, though.
Yes.
This is before they could really show as much violence on the cartoon as they eventually started showing, and I feel like they're tiptoeing around standards and practices here. So the culmination of this is not a fist fight, but
a pie to the face.
Pie to the face. A spring-loaded pie to the face.
I mean, there is something very pure about that being the Joker's ultimate. Oh, super long years suddenly for Batman.
That pie cream coming off pretty easily, too. You must have anti-pie cream.
Good music, though.
Yep. Great punctuation of the
catch,
scene. Batman able
caught 3.
I would say his arms were wide enough to go around 3 people.
So the Joker had a second sweater and pair of white gloves on over top, just in case Batman.
I like to think they were rubber. Oh, but unfortunately, the Joker is foiled by a rogue roller skate.
0 punches thrown by Batman or Robin in this episode, other than some Merry Christmas, Joker. Other than some flying kicks from Robin to the robot nutcrackers.
There you go. Now we have the ending of It's a Wonderful Life, which actually matches up pretty well with the bells there.
Bells there.
The commissioner lent them a copy of it because this
knows
is before DVDs and streaming.
Yes, they had to project it.
Batman hadn't watched it before, so he didn't own it on video. So
yes.
Blockbuster was probably closed. Now we get a ending that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but gave us the opportunity to have Mark Hamill singing
and
a Christmas carol.
Christmas song.
There we go.
Well, there it is.
And that will wrap that up. We get the classic Batman credits here, of course. So there we have it. Our first watch along here. So we've again reviewed this episode in total back on episode 2. I still love this episode, even though we can pick it apart, and plot wise it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's a lot of holes. There's not a lot of action.
Yeah, it very much feels like a Dick Sprang era Batman story.
For sure.
From the over-the-top weaponry and rocket-propelled Christmas tree down to Batman not actually punching anyone or doing much of anything, like the Joker slips. That's how it comes to an end. But it's very much a comfort food. We've talked about it before. We had these videotapes that Warner Home Video had released growing up, and each tape was focused on a certain character, and the Joker tape led off with Christmas with the Joker. So this is probably one of our most watched episodes from our childhood. And then on top of that, it's one of the few holiday episodes we have in the DCAU. So it's definitely one I always look very fondly on. But when you, as we talk about sometimes, when you hold it up to the microscope a little bit, it is dumb, but it's dumb fun, and I think that's really all you can ask from a Batman Christmas special.
Absolutely, critically under the critical eye, it doesn't stand up. I don't think we crushed this episode from my recollection. Yeah. Again, it was early on in the podcast, but other than the animation being a little wonky in places, I'm actually pleasantly surprised, at least on this rewatch, and maybe this is something that the remastered edition maybe added a little bit to, because I can tell you that watching the grainy DVD copy of it, maybe that remastered edition helps the enjoyment process a little bit, but everything about this is great. Obviously, we get some great Mark Hamill commentary and voice acting, and as we already mentioned, the music, and it is just something that you can put on. It's 23 minutes that you can pop it on, and just feel warm and fuzzy. Watch it on a night, with the tree lights on and some hot cocoa, and just feel good again.
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely hits all those nostalgia points for us, and I'm sure for anyone listening along with us. But thank you, everyone, for listening to our first watch along episode. let us know. Tweet us at DCAU Review or leave us a comment on Instagram, same place, at DCAU Review. Let us know what you think. Is this your go-to? Do you prefer Holiday Nights? Do you prefer Bullet for Bullock or something else or some other cartoon? What are your favorite holiday watches that you go back to every year? We'd love to hear from you about that stuff. But thank you everybody for listening. Of course, you can stay tuned for our regular episodes, which will be focusing on Static Shock for the rest of December. And we'll be back soon with another bonus episode, I'm sure, as well. But until next time, I'm Liam.
And I'm Cal.
And we'll be back soon with another episode of the DCAU Review.
Bye-bye.
Don we now a gay apparel. Fa la 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 la. Merry